the star beneath the ashes. The cold bit into her hands. The sea stretched endlessly before her, blending into the horizon as seagulls cried above, and the wind howled across the desolate dock. Emily walked steadily toward the old fisherman's pier, her footsteps muffled by the gusts. Her wet hair clung to her neck, and the thin, threadbare coat she wore did little to protect her from the freezing wind. But Emily didn't feel the cold. The weight she carried within her had already numbed her body to everything else. The wooden planks of the pier groaned under her steps, swollen from years of rain and neglect. Each creak felt like an echo of her own fractured soul, a haunting resonance that matched the splinters in her heart. As she reached the edge of the pier, she let the backpack on her shoulder slip to the ground. Inside, it carried just a few items: a faded photograph, a tarnished necklace, and a crumpled letter. Each one was an artifact of a life she could no longer bear to carry. Her gaze fixed on the endless expanse of water. Dark clouds churned overhead, blotting out any trace of sunlight. The sea below was a reflection of her mind, a deep, impenetrable abyss. "This is where it ends," she murmured under her breath. The sound of her voice startled her, as though it belonged to someone else. She stepped closer to the edge, her worn boots balancing precariously on the wet, slippery wood. Beneath her, the sea whispered promises of silence and release. And then, the wind changed. A warm breeze, impossibly gentle, brushed against her face. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it cut through the numbness like a shard of light breaking through the darkness. She lifted her head, her breath catching in her throat. That was when she saw her. At the far end of the pier, a woman stood watching her. She was tall, dressed in a sleek black coat that seemed impervious to the wind. Her posture radiated an eerie calm, and her face, though not harsh, bore a sharpness that suggested she had seen far more than most. But it was her eyes that arrested Emily. The woman's eyes carried a weight that seemed to encompass lifetimes, as if she could see right through Emily's brokenness and into her very soul. The woman began walking toward her, each step deliberate. Yet, somehow, her boots made no sound against the creaking planks. Her long, dark hair swayed gently in the breeze, as if the wind itself was afraid to disturb her presence. Emily's heart pounded in her chest. Her body tensed with a mixture of fear and awe. Who was this woman? How had she gotten here? "You're not meant to leave yet," the woman said softly. Her voice cut through the roar of the wind, carrying an almost supernatural clarity. It wasn't just sound. It was a vibration Emily felt in her bones, in her mind, and in the hollow chambers of her heart. Emily instinctively stepped back. The woman's gaze held her in place, piercing and unyielding. Who are you?" Emily asked, her voice shaky and raw. The woman tilted her head slightly, a faint smile playing on her lips. But it wasn't a warm smile. It was knowing, almost unsettling. "You already know me," she said, "but you've forgotten." "No," Emily whispered, shaking her head. "No, I don't know you. I've never seen you before." The woman's smile deepened, though it still lacked warmth. "Haven't you?" she asked. "Then why are you here?" The question hit Emily like a blow. It wasn't an accusation. It was a challenge. The words hung in the air, as undeniable as the sea below. Emily opened her mouth to answer, but no sound came out. The woman took another step forward and extended her hand. "Come," she said. "There's something you need to see." Emily wanted to refuse. She wanted to pull away, to retreat from the woman's outstretched hand. But something inside her stirred, a pull she couldn't resist. Against her better judgment, she slowly lifted her trembling hand and placed it in the woman's. The world disappeared. The wind fell silent. The pier, the ocean, the gulls, all of it vanished in an instant. Emily found herself standing in a vast void of darkness. It wasn't an empty darkness, though. A faint hum vibrated through the air, like the distant echo of a melody she couldn't quite place. She held her breath, her eyes straining to adjust to the overwhelming blackness. Then she saw it. A single point of light. At first, she thought it was a trick of her imagination. But then another light appeared, and another. Soon, the void was speckled with tiny, flickering stars. They pulsed faintly, some bright and unwavering, others dim and faltering. The woman stood beside her, calm and steady. "This is your mind," she said, her voice soft yet resonant. "And these are your dreams." Emily stared in awe at the lights around her. Some were vivid and alive, but many were faint, almost extinguished. The sight made her chest tighten. "My dreams?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. The woman nodded. "Each star represents a piece of you. Your hopes, your desires, your courage. They're all here. But look closer." Emily did as she was told, focusing on the dimmest stars. She felt an ache deep within her. These were the parts of herself she had abandoned. I lost them," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "I lost all of them." The woman turned to her, her expression unreadable but her voice firm. "You didn't lose them. You forgot them. There's a difference. Forgetting doesn't mean they're gone. It means they're waiting for you to remember." The woman raised her hand, and a small star floated down to hover between them. Its light was fragile, flickering like a candle about to go out. "This was your first dream," the woman said. Emily reached out hesitantly, her fingertips brushing against the star. The moment she touched it, a memory surged to the surface. A small bedroom, a child's desk cluttered with crayons and sheets of paper. A little girl sat cross-legged on a chair, her face lit with excitement as she drew a bird in flight. Her hands were smudged with color, her hair a wild mess. But she didn't care. She was creating something beautiful. Emily gasped as the memory faded. She recognized the little girl immediately. It was her. "You used to create without fear," the woman said. "You dreamed of a world full of color, a world you could shape with your hands. But somewhere along the way, you let that go." Emily's voice cracked. "I thought it didn't matter. I thought it wasn't worth holding on to." The woman shook her head. "Every dream matters, even the ones you think you've left behind." More stars began to appear around them, each one connected to a memory, a piece of Emily she had buried. Her courage, her curiosity, her love, they had all been scattered, hidden in the dark corners of her mind. The woman guided her to each one, helping her remember, helping her reclaim the light she thought she had lost. By the time they reached the final star, Emily felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. She turned to the woman, her voice steady for the first time. "Who are you?" The woman smiled, a real smile this time. "I am you," she said. "The part of you that refused to give up. The part that brought you here, to this moment. Now it's your turn to take the next step." The woman began to fade, her voice echoing softly as she disappeared into the void. "Find your stars, Emily. Light them again. They're waiting for you." Emily opened her eyes. She was back on the pier. The wind was cold, the sea restless, but the weight in her chest was gone. She picked up her backpack, holding it close. She swore she felt a faint warmth inside, as though one of those stars had followed her back. With a deep breath, Emily turned away from the edge of the pier and took her first step forward. She didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time in a long time, that uncertainty didn't scare her. She walked into the wind, her eyes fixed on the horizon. Because now she carried her own light. There is always a star waiting beneath the ashes of what we've lost. Find yours. Reclaim your light. You are stronger than the darkness.
As the Short Glowy Stories team, we'd like to share a few words with you. Life can be challenging at times. There are moments when we feel lost in the dark, unsure of which way to turn. But within every darkness, there is a light waiting to be found. Sometimes in a story, a kind word, or an unexpected moment. We are here to remind you of that light, to let you know you're never alone, and to celebrate the beauty of holding on, no matter what life throws your way. If this story touched your heart, maybe it could do the same for someone else. Don't forget to share it with a friend or loved one who might be going through a tough time right now. And if you'd like to support us in bringing hope to even more people, consider subscribing to our channel. Because every story is a beginning, and hope grows stronger when we share it together. Stay safe, stay kind.